Hello and welcome to this week's Wisdom Wednesday on the Alter Your Health podcast. I'm Dr. Susanna Alter,
And I'm Dr. Ben.
and we're both naturopathic doctors who empower individuals to heal themselves through whole food, plant-based nutrition and mind-body medicine.
So today we've got another Wisdom Wednesday episode for you. And as you might already be tuned into, we're working our way from head to toe, talking about our physical, nutritional, lifestyle things and altering your health from head to toe on Medicinal Monday. Wisdom Wednesday, we're of course talking about the spiritual, energetic, metaphysical opportunities that often lie in healing as we are navigating the body head to toe. And we're talking all about the throat. On Monday, we talked about upper respiratory infections, sore throat, all of the nutritional and lifestyle things to prevent and naturally heal these sort of acute or recurrent chronic conditions. And when we're talking about the throat, the first thing that comes to mind for me and what's going to be kind of the focus of our conversation today is just that energy of self-expression. Of course, like I don't know, I've witnessed Susanna's journey. Putting her on the spot real quick. Oftentimes, noticing that she gets like phlegm caught in her throat. And I know it's not a nutritional thing. It's not like she's sneaking, cheese sticks behind my back. Like we're eating the same stuff. I know she's hydrated, but I'll let obviously Susanna kind of speak for herself. But oftentimes there's like this energetic kind of spiritual opportunity with self-expression and having a clear throat, and also what that means with regard to preventing and healing these kind of chronic conditions that might be related to our throat anatomy and physiology.
Definitely. I mean, we can think of from the kind of energetic school of thought, we think of the throat chakra as being a main energy center in the body. And that throat chakra is our communication center. It's
Right.
how we express our creativity. It's how we express our truth. And so, of course, there is definitely that brain body mind body connection between our ability to express ourselves authentically and our physical throat symptoms.
Yeah, and I think for sure, oftentimes fifth chakra, throat energy, throat chakra stuff definitely gets wrapped up into the conversation around thyroid health, because that's kind of the endocrine gland, and our chakras are aligned with our endocrine glands. So we're definitely going to be talking more about thyroid health and fifth chakra stuff when we get there in our altering your health from head to toe journey. But we're kind of starting that conversation today around self-expression, because for sure with regard to voice and throat health and scratchy throats and that kind of chronic nagging cough, or near feeling like you need to clear your throat often, there very much is that similar piece of just kind of authentic self-expression.
Yeah.
So we're going to be diving into this and hopefully gaining insight and empowerment, how we can kind of step more fully, healthfully, strongly into what it means to express ourselves.
Yeah, so should we just dive into the energetic discussion, Ben, rather than talking about, usually we start with a more kind of physiological brain body connection, but
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you've tuned in, you
it's pretty
know how like
self-explanatory.
stressful thinking, constriction, the constriction of blood flow and nerve flow, and how stress kind of impacts our immunity. And of course, it's like if we're under stress, like in a acute or chronic way, we're gonna have that constriction. In our
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, what I was thinking is the obvious. When we're under stress, our immune system drops and we're more
well,
susceptible to getting
the
an
truth
upper
is
respiratory infection.
the truth is actually that when we're under stress, acute stress raises our immune system, but chronic stress suppresses our immune system. But so it's like, it's kind of But
But
anyways,
yeah,
yeah.
so if someone has chronic stress, then they're more susceptible to getting upper respiratory infections and having a sore throat. So that's that kind of obvious kind of brain body connection there.
Right.
But what I love that you're bringing up is also just the immediate physiological response of how sometimes when people are experiencing that acute stress from, stressful thinking just coming in, they actually feel in their throat a constriction feeling.
Mm.
They feel like a ball in their throat. And I
Oh,
I can totally relate to
yeah.
this. Can you?
Yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah.
with public speaking and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And oh yeah. I mean, it's not like it's totally in the rear view mirror. Like I'll get it. Like even I don't know, sitting at the dinner table. I can't think of any like real tangible example, but it's like when there's a conversation being had, and it's like it's kind of like a sensitive subject, and I feel like I want to speak up, but I'm just like eating my food, and
Mhm.
there's like this kind of like ball
Something
and
welling up.
yeah, it's like I can't swallow. uh, like that. Like I'm sure everyone has their own experience of that. Like I know in sometimes in like when I was a student, I would often be kind of one of the more shy, soft spoken people, and I would want to like raise my hand and share, but I'd have this like I feel like if I did and someone and they called on me, like like the words wouldn't come out of my mouth properly.
Mhm.
So of course, the way that I see self-expression, just kind of jumping forward maybe a little bit, is that it's kind of like a muscle. At least that's my relationship with it. My voice and my authentic self-expression is kind of like a muscle. And as with any muscle, you can kind of just like work it out and exercise it and give yourself opportunities to flex it and use it. And as you do so, you get more comfortable. And then you kind of stretch into the limits of what it means to more articulately, confidently, clearly communicate. And that's not to say we're always going to be perfect. If you listen to this podcast, you know how I fumble over my words like so often. And that's not what it's about, being perfect with our speech, but having that grounded clarity and confidence with what we're saying and really being aligned and speaking truthfully, honestly, rather than just like putting words out there that we think we should be putting out, that they're not really coming from that authentic, genuine place.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so let's just refer back to some of our wise mind body teachers here, what they have to say about the throat. And we have Louise Hay saying that the throat represents, well, it is our avenue of expression. It's a channel of creativity, and that throat problems can often represent an inability to speak up for oneself, swallowed anger, stifled creativity. And to go further, if I look at what she has next to sore throat, I found this was very interesting. Holding in angry words, feeling unable to express the self. And I thought it was really interesting that the theme of anger kept coming up because, honestly, if I speak personally for myself, whenever I feel the most kind of constriction, tension in my throat, is usually when I am trying to like swallow my anger or swallow my emotions, and
Mm.
I'm not expressing those emotions, and there's that balling up of energy that's just getting stuck in my throat.
Yeah, it leads me to consider, just the rules that we make for ourselves around self-expression, or the rules that we buy into that are maybe made for us based on our upbringing. Like you were sharing, Susanna, like, anger. Anger is a anger or rage or like that emotion, communicating from that place is difficult. Susanna knows that I don't have any issue expressing my anger. I like that's totally normal. In fact, and the rules that I have in my upbringing is like, if you want to get a point across, you do so from an angry place because people are going to listen. Unless you're angry, chances are you're not going to be heard or listened to unless you're like have some anger in your voice. Now, of course, I'm learning that that's like a silly rule that doesn't like actually make any sense. It doesn't feel good. It's not promoting my health and well-being. So just the rules that we believe and make up and buy into around what, how, and like what ways and how we should be communicating, and what is easy and what is difficult and why it's easy. Like, it's just kind of interesting because of course if you have a really, I don't know, it's just coming to my mind, if you have like a best friend, you have a best friend who you just trust, and you trust with all your heart, and you can be 100% open and vulnerable and honest and just communicate everything, communicate your anger, communicate your resentment, communicate your jealousy, communicate your sadness, communicate all these emotional feelings. um, it's like, what, that best friend, what do they have? Obviously maybe they're like, trustworthy or whatever. But it's like, why can't we have that feeling and relationship and trust with ourselves and the rest of the world? Why can't we be completely open, honest, vulnerable, and authentic to everyone and anyone? And that's not to say we always need to like just speak what's on our heart and on our mind, like without any filter. But at least we can have that comfort with the internal dialogue, the internal self-expression. And when it does come time to open our mouth and share with the world, we're in that place of kind of groundedness rather than just got that emotional vulnerability and reactivity.
Totally. I think it's really interesting to kind of consider the balance of expression and what areas in life we freely express ourselves and what areas in life we kind of hold back our self-expression, and just kind of, acknowledging like what you're saying, how it's like some people might have kind of more of a tendency to hold back self-expression just in general, whereas other people might actually be kind of like a loose cannon and just kind of like say whatever is coming through their mind without any filter or anything. And like what you're saying, that's not necessarily like to that person's benefit or health benefit or anything. I think that we can overexpress and we can underexpress. And I was actually speaking with a friend the other week about just this topic, actually, because this wonderful person was just having some realizations that she had really kind of like stifled her self-expression in major ways for the majority of her life. And she was going through this phase of really practicing sharing everything, like sharing what was on her heart, sharing everything. And it was like, flexing that muscle of self-expression, right?
Mhm.
And I was thinking about this personally as she was sharing this, because I can certainly relate to going through a phase like that myself, especially with
Me,
you, Ben.
me too. I can. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, where like, if something came up in our relationship, I would tell you right away. I would tell you, I'm angry about this. I feel insecure about this. I feel jealous. I feel this. I feel that. I feel that. And at a certain point, I think both you and I kind of came to this understanding and agreement, at least with me, like, it's not always necessarily beneficial to say everything that I'm feeling.
Yeah, and we can feel fully. We can. What I hear you saying is we can feel fully without communicating. In other words, what the feeling is for me is like we've got this internal relationship and internal communication dialogue going on all the time, or I guess it would be a monologue. These thoughts and words that are bouncing around within ourselves, and we can allow that to be a place of authentic self-expression as well. It doesn't have to come through our vocal cords and into the world. It can just come into ourselves, and we can recognize and acknowledge it, feel it, uh, 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 what's the word? Yeah,
Integrate.
integrate it, and embrace it into our being without going through the motions of communication. Now, of course, it makes sense. Like in relationships, of course, our relationships are founded upon clear, honest communication. But it's so important to be grounded in a place of understanding when we're going about our communication. And we can't be grounded in that place if we don't have that internal dialogue in a place of that's grounded and settled. So those are just a few of my thoughts on the topic.
Definitely. Yeah. And to expand upon that, there is that important distinction between self expression that's coming from a very ungrounded and emotional place versus a very grounded and connected place. And, you know, I. I'm not saying that it's bad for us to express ourselves when we're emotional. Like, that's all good and fine as well. But, for example, when we think about like toxic communication where someone's angry and yelling at someone, and, like, okay, it's kind of like, okay, well,
How productive is that?
how productive is that? Like, how is that going to support relationships? How is that going to support your health in the long run? And so, I think the distinction that I learned that has really helped me in kind of deciding like when to share and when to just wait to share, was something one of our mentors explained to us in a webinar where, this was Dick and Bettinger, just to kind of say who it was. He was saying that, like, yeah, we can go around and we can sneeze all over people, right? Like, we can go and we can like say whatever we think, our anger, our this, our that, to people, right? Sneeze all over them. But that person might not really appreciate that. And so really, what he suggests, what he talks about, is really just kind of like tuning in with our feeling state.
Yeah.
Do I feel constriction? Do I feel the discomfort of when emotions are coming up? For the example of anger, it's like, I know what anger feels like in my body. And yeah, I know that it can feel good to just release it and share it with you, Ben. But I've actually found that it's so much more constructive and beneficial and helpful long term when I just wait for the anger to pass and see the situation from a more grounded place. And oftentimes there is still something for me to say, right? It's not that I let the anger pass and I forget about it and I suppress what I was irritated about, or don't confront an issue that needs to be confronted. But it's coming from a more grounded place of a more clear mind. And from that place, we also have more clear communication that is generally better received by the receiving party.
Totally. So we're kind of all over the place in this communication around communication, which is of course totally awesome and fine and beautiful. But one thing that I thought that was also another kind of helpful thing to understand and wrap our heads around real quick is just kind of that traversing those difficult conversations, because I think that's where a lot of back to kind of the practicality of clear throat energy. I'm kind of tuned into how people like their voice, like how, like, well, some people just kind of, it's like there's something stuck in there, and it's like the stuckness is literally something that isn't being said. And there's that kind of just this swallowing of words again. And the interesting thing in my experience is I'm not claiming to be like an expert in having difficult conversations. They're difficult conversations are difficult for a reason, but I have felt that they're never as difficult as I always chalk them up to be in my head. Like I run through the conversation. Like if I need to share something with Suzanne, I'll run through it 1,000 times in my own head, and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to say this right?
You do that with me?
I can't think of a time, but
that's news to me.
Yeah. But anyways, it's like we kind of run through again this internal dialogue of how can I articulate this? Oh my gosh, I've got this thing to say to this person. I've got this meeting. Need to call this person. Need to have this conversation. And we run through it in our heads, and like the worst case scenario, what if they say this? What if they say that? I'm not sure about. And there's just all these thoughts, all these insecurities, all this energy. And then that kind of continues to damper down our own confidence in self-expression and communication. But the way that I see it and feel it is like it's just a matter of opening up floodgates and allowing ourselves to just be honest, be open, and be communicative. And that in and of itself is healing. And then, of course, the practicality of that is like when we are just present, open, honest, we're connected with the flow of creativity that gives us the words, gives us the energy, gives us the message that is going to be, adequately sent and received. And these difficult conversations and communications are never ever as challenging as they are in real life. Like they're so much more challenging in our own thought created realities than they are in like physical, practical world reality,
Totally.
in my experience.
Definitely. I mean, I think what I really hear you saying, to boil it down, is that what makes difficult conversations difficult is our insecurity about how it's going to go, how what we're going to share is going to be received. Essentially kind of really caring about what the other person thinks
Yeah.
of what we have to say.
So yeah, it's like really owning and recognizing our responsibility, our purpose. Our intention is to be authentic to us and like be like share on our end. We're not responsible for how that message lands on the other side ever. We can't be.
Yeah.
So we need to like recognize the limitations in our communication and just be true to you, just be true to me, and do our best and do what makes sense in the moment.
And that truthful, authentic expression is such a gift in every situation, I think, because it really invites and inspires people to share authentically themselves as well.
Totally.
Yeah.
Everyone appreciates, I mean, I appreciate, I don't know about everyone. I certainly appreciate when people are genuine, authentic, and vulnerable. There's some like, oh wow, I really acknowledge you for saying that. Like, breaking the ice in whatever way and just
Mhm.
being real. It's so inspiring. So yeah, I think that the world needs more of that. And we're all continuously invited to step into that authenticity and flex the muscle and work out that muscle of authentic self-expression. So yeah, I think in doing so we just create more flow in our vocal cords, create more flow in our authentic self-expression. And in that flow, I think is the flow of more creativity, more fresh ideas, more insight. So it's like we open up the floodgates, we let the stream flow, and we can enjoy whatever comes our way.
Beautiful.
Any other? Is that it?
That's it, because I have
Okay.
a feeling next week we're also going to be kind of extending this conversation when we're talking about the thyroid,
I
right?
guess, okay, I guess the thyroid is next week. So
Yes.
we'll see you next week for our Thyroid Medicinal Monday.
Yes. And as always, if you're looking for more support, you can check out our website, www.altered.health. You can check out our comprehensive support program, Thrive on Plants, or if you're looking for just a little bit of inspiration, check out our Meal Guide membership. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you next week.
All right. Peace and love, you guys.
Bye for now.